It seems like everyone's watching the stock market, right? And gold, too. It's been strong.
Definitely getting a lot of attention.
But today, we're going to explore something a bit different. We're looking at potentially overlooked assets, silver, and real estate.
Yeah, and what's really interesting here is this idea of capital rotation. Maybe investors shifting focus to places with, well, maybe more perceived growth potential.
Okay.
And our source today, it's driven by this AI called the GameSense Inference Engine. It suggests exactly that kind of shift could be happening.
Right, the GameSense engine. So it's predicting, what is it, a potential upside of 50% or more for real estate.
Yeah, potentially. And for silver, they're talking about a major breakout, maybe even by 2025.
Okay, so let's unpack this then. Our deep dive today is really about trying to understand why this AI analysis flags these two as undervalued and, what that might actually mean for you listening.
Let's start with silver. Um, the case for it being undervalued. It gets pretty interesting when you look back at its history. Well, despite a big increase in industrial demand, I mean, it's crucial for electronics, solar panels, all that stuff.
Right, yeah, the industrial side is huge now.
Exactly. But its price, when you adjust for inflation, is still actually below its peak back in 1980.
Wow, really? That's kind of surprising, isn't it? Even with all these new uses, it's cheaper than decades ago, relatively speaking.
It is. And the GameSense analysis forecasts it could potentially reach $40 an ounce, maybe by Q3 2025.
$40. Okay, that definitely suggests some serious upside potential then. Makes you wonder, like, what's causing that historical disconnect?
Yeah, good question. I mean, if you compare it to how other assets have performed, silver's price stability looks quite unique, and that's something GameSense has picked up on.
Okay.
Now, shifting gears to real estate, the idea that it's undervalued might sound a bit odd, right? Given how much prices went up before.
Exactly. Yeah, you'd think it's fairly valued, maybe even pricey in some areas.
True. But the argument here is that it's currently undervalued relative to other asset classes. That's the key part.
Right. Relative. Okay.
Look at the housing market. It's been, relatively flat since about 2022. But during that same time, corporate profits have surged.
Ah, okay. So that difference, that divergence, that's the second.
And that's how some analysts and the GameSense engine are interpreting it, yes. It's seen as a potential sign that capital might start rotating into real estate.
Because investors see that flatness maybe as a buying opportunity compared to profits.
Possibly, yeah. The thinking is it might represent an opportunity for, well, considerable future growth. Could be pent-up demand, shifting strategies.
And the source mentions, what, a possible 50% rise in home prices over the next few years?
That's the potential highlighted, yes.
So for you listening, trying to get a handle on market dynamics, this contrast kind of stagnant housing versus booming corporate earnings, that's a really key factor to think about.
Right, so just to pull these threads together,
Yeah.
the GameSense Inference Engine, after crunching loads of economic data and expert views, points to both silver based on that historical price versus industrial use thing, and real estate, because of that profit divergence, as potentially undervalued and maybe poised for capital inflows.
Okay. So what this deep dive offers you really is a look at potential investment areas that, well, they aren't necessarily grabbing the headlines every single day. It's about thinking about opportunities maybe beyond the most obvious narratives.
Absolutely. But, and this is crucial, we have to stress our source notes this too, investment decisions really need to line up with your own individual financial goals and your tolerance for risk.
Always. Good point.
So talking with a qualified financial advisor before making any big investment choices, that's always, always advisable.
Couldn't agree more. Essential advice. Okay. So thinking bigger picture then, with the main markets hitting new highs, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other maybe seemingly quiet corners of the market might hold unexpected potential for those willing to look, beyond the familiar?
That's a great question to ponder.